Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe on the platform that you're listening to us on. You can also check out my work at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive hard rock and heavy metal interviews, live show coverage, album reviews, and more. My guest for episode 168 is vocalist HUGO VALENTI. HUGO is the frontman for the Journey tribute act Voyage. They are one of the most successful U.S. Journey tribute acts. Recently, the band decided to cut a full album of original music under the moniker HUGO'S Voyage. Joining Valenti in HUGO'S Voyage is guitarist Robbie Hoffman, keyboardist Lance Millard, bassist Greg Smith, and drummer Dana Spellman. The album is called Inception. It comes out November 10th through Frontiers Music. And here's HUGO VALENTI to tell you more about it. If I knew absolutely nothing about HUGO'S Voyage, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Well, just melodic in the true sense of the word. Great melodies, great chords, and the songs kind of take you to a good place, and positive, upbeat rock and roll, great ballads. Journey meets Foreigner meets stuff that you love, you just don't hear anymore on the radio,
Primarily, HUGO'S Voyage has been a Journey tribute act since 2005. In fact, one of the most successful U.S. Journey tribute acts. How did it all start?
Honestly, man, it was, I had a career in music doing, originals, getting signed, Columbia, and then you get dropped in RCA, and you get dropped in Warner Brothers, and 2 decades go by, you realize you don't suck, you're just a victim of this industry. So during those years, it was always compared to Journey, a lot of the stuff, even though I had producers saying, add more rasp and do this, the melodies and this and that, and me, I have long black hair, and so it was just one of those things where, we're going to radio with Journey's new single, Sorry, We're Not Going to Add You. And a lot of that stuff happened. So at the end of that, I kind of, we all decided, my bandmates they're still my best friends in the world, where we talk all the time. But it was time to move on. So again, with comparisons to Journey, I said, you know what? I don't want to exit Journey. I don't want to exit music. Let me just start a Journey tribute band, because it was always compared. And that's kind of how that went. And that was decades ago, 25 years, 30 years ago.
You had the same band members in HUGO'S Voyage, or has it changed over the years?
Couple of changes, but pretty much solid. Robbie's been there. Greg Smith, bass from day one. Dana came on after a couple of different drummers, as well as Lance on keyboards after a few. But ironically enough, the guys in the band now, we've been childhood friends for 30 years, 40 years. So it's one of those things that just evolved. It was so cool,
So you guys have taken the step from doing Journey's covers to original music with your first album, Inception, out on November 10th through Frontiers Music. Was there a particular event that kind of triggered this, hey, why don't we take this sound and make it something new?
Not really anything in particular. We were always asked, do you guys do your own, you have originals, do you do this? And I have a history of, albums, so it was just, I kind of put that away because I was so happy doing the Journey stuff. It's turning people on, traveling, having fun. And it was easy, and it still is. It's a great time. But, honestly, the pandemic happened and everybody had nothing but time. So in that time, I wound up getting a new keyboard in the waiting, I was sitting there waiting. So I got a keyboard, and honestly, man, when I opened it up and just listened to these piano sounds with bells and strings, it opened up a world in my brain that had been shut down for quite a while. Like I said, I was kind of out of the original thing, just because the industry's changed so much. And how do you possibly put an album out, for friends and family? You're not going to do it, But I'm glad to have the opportunity. So I started writing, and I would send a song over to Robbie Hoffman, our guitar player. And Robbie was like, that's amazing. And I'm like, well, if you like that, you're really gonna like this. And I would send them another one, another. And honestly, man, in probably like 2 months' time, I must have had 23, 24 written, 2.5 months. So I didn't want to stop that. I didn't want to stop the process. I was so inspired that I wasn't about to say, okay, I didn't really want to do. I loved it. It was great. The sounds, the whoa, and the melodies just came. So I would send them. Before you know it, we had like 2 albums worth of stuff, and we just picked, a solid a 10 or 11 that would go on an album. But I was happy to do it, to find that inspiration. Of course, now I hit a brick wall. I couldn't write, ding, 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 chopsticks. No, I'm all good though.
Well, I have to say, I've listened to the album, and even though, Hugo's Journey is a Journey tribute act, I mean, excuse me, Hugo's Voyage is a Journey tribute act, you don't sound a lot like Journey on this one. You define your own sound. I'd say there's bits of Journey in there, melody-wise, and some Boston, I think, the band Boston, and you kind of carve out your own thing, a little singer-songwriter, not so much hard rock here.
Right, right. That's exactly what we were looking for, honestly. Yeah, have our own. Again, our influences go, but yeah, of course, Journey, Foreigner. But this, my inspiration, my favorite was Karen Carpenter. She was a drummer singer. She was my number one. And Elton, the Stones. God, there was so much that yeah, Journey is huge. Influence, but there are so many things, and I wanted to keep it completely Voyage and not sound, oh my God, it's so that. It's just original. It's good. Even vocally too, I kind of like added a little more motion, a little more, easy, and then whoa, right back into it, but just little dynamics, Yeah, try to make it original.
And lyrically, you're coming at this from the point of relationships, good, bad, or indifferent, as far as that's concerned. If you want to talk a little bit about Don't Want to Live Without Your Love, which is the lead single.
Yeah, originally the song was written honestly with spirituality in mind. Don't want to live without your love being a bigger thing. There's so many love songs out there, love lost, love gained. And this was just like, I can't believe the way I'm feeling, it's more of a spiritual. There's nothing else that can possibly, because I feel so inspired and I'm so good, and those are the connotations. But of course, interpretation is everything, because at the end of it, don't want to live without your love. It's just magical, whether it's a person, a spouse, a friend, or the Lord, it's cool.
Absolutely. Are you guys planning on releasing any more singles from the album?
As a matter of fact, yeah, yesterday we shot a video for A Friend Like You, one of the ballads on the album. And the album's, I think, released on the 10th. We should have the video all comped and ready probably by the end of this week, certainly the beginning of next week. And that'll go right to social media and get that out there. I want people to hear that one. It's a really good one, and the video is going to come out great, I'm sure.
Do you like filming these music videos? I've talked to a couple of artists. They're like, it's a little weird just pantomiming the song.
Yeah, it gets a little funky, and it's a big day of, close-ups, far away, panning, and yeah. But listen, it's for the greater good. We want people to see and hear it, and that's what it's all about. So it's never a pain in the ass. It's always like, yeah, let's do it.
Inception comes out on Frontiers Music, and you've released solo music with Frontiers Music and a couple of projects. So I would assume it wasn't difficult signing with them for this album.
They are the kings of this genre. They really are. Serafino's got it down. Mario, the guys are the best at what they do. So we have confidence that they can, do what needs to be done for this one. It's one of those albums that just needs to be heard, in the melodic community, if you think, because there's heavy stuff. There's stuff that doesn't quite fit in. This is kind of right up their alley, I think. And it needs that support, to reach people, and hopefully that'll get done.
Even though I personally think you sound different than Journey, was there any apprehension on the label's part where they're kind of the home to Journey these days?
Yeah, apprehension. I don't think so. I think it was welcome, and yeah, it would have been easy to write these like rock and roll songs with heavy guitar and hey, we're gonna rock you, and all that stuff. I'm just not that writer anymore. It's, I write, my instrument is keyboard. So you can imagine a lot of ballads, a lot of, I do some like, B stuff with a G, and Robbie'd be like, what chord is that? Like, So just happy the way stuff came out.
Have you been playing the new material live yet?
We had a shot at Don't Want to Live Without Your Love a couple of weeks back. I think the 17th of November, we're playing in Connecticut at the Toyota Oakdale Theater, which is a great venue in Wallingford, Connecticut. And I think we're scheduled to do Don't Want to Live Without Your Love there, and should be cool. Yeah, we're excited. Good response.
Are you going to be selling copies of the album at your shows?
No plans to do that. I think only because you have to set up merch and do that whole thing. And we never really did that doing the Journey thing. It wouldn't be the right thing to do. So we never did that. But with the originals, I guess we'll have to see, but they'd have to send it. We'd have to set up booths, and that, we weren't in it about, for the money because there's no money to be made, man. So, you know what I mean?
When it comes to a HUGO'S Voyage set list live, is it mainly Steve Perry era Journey, or do you venture out into their other eras and singers?
Primarily Steve Perry. Yeah, there's not much. It's the Perry years, for the most part. A couple of solo songs from Steve, but mostly the catalog of Journey with Steve Perry. Yeah.
Have you ever gotten any feedback from anyone in Journey about your shows?
Yeah. Some positive stuff, just conversing back and forth with a few of the guys, and it's good, all positive,
I noticed that Nuno Bettencourt of Extreme joined you guys on stage recently, and you guys have a connection with Extreme because your guitarist Robbie Hoffman is their manager. So this was obviously pre-planned in advance?
It was up until that moment. We literally have guitars strapped on, ready to go, and like, Nuno's not here yet. And meanwhile, we have passes, credentials, the doors, the downstairs doors open. He's just got to get here. So, tape drop, and we're about. And Robbie says, he's here. He's downstairs. It's like, thank the Lord, because we were going to be like, we got a special guest tonight, So Nuno came in, he was running, and he, boom, hopped up, and we did Any Way You Want It. It was great. It's so good to see Nuno and Gary and Pat, those guys. We've been friends for a long, long time. So we knew he was going to be in town. And this was Hampton Beach, close to where he was around Boston. And so he came and did it. And we had a great time. Great time. Nuno's one of those guys, man. It's like, I was telling the other guys too, he's just got layers and layers. He's like the massive onion of like, wow, because you peel off like amazing, best guitar player on the planet, right? Boom, songwriter, lead singer, and he just composes the stuff, the arrangement. He is one of a kind, man. One of a kind. He's so cool.
It's kind of common that tribute bands don't necessarily play the most popular venues sometimes. What is like the weirdest place you guys have been booked to play?
Yeah, probably about a year ago. It was going to be great. It's going to be this, and we fly out, and it was like Wichita or something. It was like burgers and brew. It's going to be great, So everybody had burgers, brew, and the Journey, the music of Journey, and it was like, okay, all right, I guess it's going to be great. Don't forget to tip your waitress. It was funny though. Most of them are small sheds and great venues and theaters and casinos, and then you pull up to a burgers and brew joint. So there you go. You got to play the gig. It was cool though. It was cool.
Some of these breweries are gigantic, and it's kind of a thing these days to have live music at these things.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. The Voyage thing is a bit of a production, so it's thank God we had some good production there. But it's when you see it come up. By the way, guys, brace yourself. It's a beer joint.
Well, a lot of the bands have been saying that these casino gigs are actually quite lucrative, that the venue takes care of the band, and that usually the audience is super receptive. Are you finding that out as well?
Yeah, definitely. It's easier. It's better than trying to break into a new town, a new venue, and you do it once, twice, 3 times. The casinos are what they are. They have, budgets put aside for instead of door deals and stuff like that. You go to a casino and have fun, and turn people on. But it's good. Yeah, they take care of the guys too, which is so important, you know.
You briefly mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you had an original band career prior to this project that was named Valentine. You guys released your self-titled album in 1991 through Giant Records. What do you kind of remember of putting that album together as a new band in the industry?
We were excited, man. But again, that was, you know, just at the time where stuff was changing. You know, stuff was changing. Grunge was kind of just knocking on the door. And, you know, we originally had signed with Columbia, and, you know, John Mervis Mickey Eichner splits, and Donnie Einer comes in with Tommy Mottola. And, you know, they're all about dance and Mariah Carey and all that shit. So naturally, you can imagine rock was like, yeah, imagine that. Boom, you know, so we got shelved, and thank God they let us go without just killing it and take the album Split. So we went over to Giant Records, which was Irving Azoff's brand new venture, and went on that. And, you know, it was a battle. It was a battle just to try to get stuff done. We made a little noise. We went on support with Mr. Big across the country. So that was great. We had a chance to tour that. And we reached some people. It was good. But again, you know, short-lived, just because Nirvana was happening. And right after that, it was like, you know, the stake through the heart. You know?
Ironically, two of your bandmates are also in a Journey tribute, so to speak. They're playing with Steve Augeri, Gerard Zappa, and Adam Holland. Kind of weird that most of the guys at Valentine ended up doing Journey songs.
Absolutely. Also, Craig Pullman, my keyboard player from then, who is just an amazing talent, Craig, and he plays keys for Steve as well. Yeah, you know what? We were doing something with Valentine overseas, and Steve came in to do an Augeri thing, and we just broke bread and this and that. And I think at one point Steve was like, "You guys are not." I said, "Steve, this was a one-off. You know, he needs a band. We weren't really playing anymore." And at that point, we kind of knew we were done. So it was just one of those things. You know, Steve came to me and suggested, you know, the guys, this and that. I'm like, absolutely. You need a band. They need to play. That's cool. And we're all friends to this day, you know, 20 years later. You couldn't ask for more, you know. Proud of those guys. They're bros forever, and they're awesome. They're awesome.
Had you ever considered auditioning for Journey?
You know, there was talk way back when John Kalodner left Geffen and went over to Columbia to CBS. And he had reached out because I just finished a solo album. And, you know, Perry was just leaving the band. And it was one of those things. And it's funny, man. I had a speakerphone, but it didn't have any like answer. It had answer back. I couldn't even play the message. I had to do one of my little handheld devices that you record music on, these little things. And I taped the conversation with Kalodner because I figured no one's going to friggin' believe me, you know? So at the end of the day, you know, his girl calls back, "John, received your album. We'd like to speak to you," and call back, and I recorded it and I have it. And it's like, "Hey, get your Journey records out. You know, we'll meet up and after the holidays and see what happened." Of course, that never really happened. I never had a chance to really jam with the band. I thought it would have been a good thing. But that was the end of that. You know, they thought it was later on. I think I found out through Neil or Jonathan or somebody that it was just a little too similar, too freaky. In retrospect, I totally got it. I was like, you know what, Augeri, he rocked. He did great. Arnel Pineda, awesome. You know, they really made great choices. You know, great singers.
Do you have any other music projects you work on, or are you working on any solo things?
Like I said, with the pandemic, I just kept on writing, and I have so many songs in the can now. But yeah, it's kind of, again, with this new keyboard, it just was so much fun hearing the sounds that it opened up such good, you know, places. And this sounds like a ballad. This is kind of a rocker, and this is a mid-tempo. So I have so many songs done, and so many kind of, you know, ideas floating around 3/4 of the way done or so. So I could mess with them for a while, but right now it's just about enjoying the Voyage stuff, you know.
Absolutely. What does the tour schedule look like for Hugo's Voyage going forward here?
Honestly, as you know, touring costs money. So I don't know that there's much of that in terms of the solo stuff, the album. Doing the Journey stuff, it's always fun. And there's always people who want to hear that stuff. It's a great catalog of music. So we're proud to do that stuff and turn people on. But, the originals, it costs money. So we would have to see what develops. I would love it. And if people hear the album, I really think they're going to be jazzed up and say, man, this band needs to be in support of somebody, But again, that requires guys' commitment and getting out there and doing it. So we'll see. Stranger stuff has happened, man. So we'll see.
Well, maybe you can open up for Extreme.
Love my boys. I don't know, man. We'll see, man. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, Hugo. The new album, HUGO'S VOYAGE, Inception, comes out November 10th through Frontiers Music. Great album. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed talking to you today to find out more about it.
Me too. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Once again, I want to thank HUGO Valenti of HUGO'S VOYAGE for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest album, Inception, out November 10th through Frontiers Music. Head over to your favorite music streaming platform. Take a listen to what's available. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy. Support the artist. For all things HUGO'S VOYAGE and Voyage, head over to their official website, voyageband.com. I also want to thank John Freeman at Freeman Promotions and Frontiers Music for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.